Welcome, everyone, to a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. A busy Wednesday planned for you guys here today. We have Murray State, who's undefeated, on a roll right now, coming to Des Moines to face the Drake Bulldogs. We will preview that game and go in depth with the Racers versus the Bulldogs and what's at stake here tonight. And then, as always, on Wednesdays, we have our Missouri Valley Conference standings updates with the men and the women. We'll also talk about some teams that have impressed us, as well as give our thoughts on some of the big games coming up this week in the Valley. And then finish up with the end of college football for this season. It was a fantastic year in college football, a fun year, and it ends with Indiana being named the national champions. Take a second. We've had a couple of days. I know we do these shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So the championship happened Monday night. I know you probably had Tuesday to really reflect on it. It's still wild to me to say out loud, Indiana are our national football champions. They're not just basketball. They won football. And we'll talk about everything from that game and recap that one as well. But before we do any of that, just make sure, if you have yet, to click that subscribe button, whether you are viewing us on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and then follow us wherever you like to social media. That can be Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. You can follow us at Media Row Pod. And then just don't support us. Go support local and the people that make this show happen. And that is Kelly's Little Nipper over there at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, great food, great drinks, and an even better community. And with the Drake game tonight, best place to go and have a pregame meal. So go check out everything Kelly's Little Nipper has to offer and more at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, a proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So let's jump into today's show, starting with the huge game here tonight, 6 o'clock tip-off. You have Murray State, 16-3, undefeated in the Missouri Valley Conference, a team that right now looks like they can't be stopped. If you want to look smart, in 2 months when we get to March and people start talking about, man, who's some good dark horses? Murray State's that team. Murray State's a team that I think could easily not just make the NCAA tournament, I think they could win a game in the NCAA tournament. They are very talented. They match up really well with just about any team. They cause a lot of issues for nearly every team they play, especially in the Valley, with their size, with their versatility. They're a damn good team, and a team I'm really excited to watch in person. Then on the other side, you have Drake. Not the season at all. Fans, coaches, players, no one wanted and expected. There were going to be growing pains. I don't think you expected, though, this Drake team to have the inconsistencies and not be able to stack wins together. It's been a while since we've seen Drake with a 9-10, 3-5 record. It's just it sucks. I'm not going to go on a big spiel about my belief in Henderson, because you guys know I still believe in him. But for this team this season, it has been disappointing, and now you're just kind of trying to get out of that Thursday spot, which is going to be very difficult, especially when you have a 3-5 record. But a way you do that is one step at a time, one game at a time, and this would be a huge step. National television, CBS Sports Network covering this one, and stacking yourself up with the best in the conference. We've talked about when they played Illinois State and when they played Bradley, Belmont. Those were, hey, you're stacking yourself up against true contenders. This is the contender. This is the best team in the Valley. This is the team everyone's chasing, and Murray State's looking like they're able to separate themselves from the rest of the pack, even from the Belmonts and the Bradleys. I will say this, though. With all my concerns I had with this Drake team, when they first played Murray State, they started Valley playoff on the road in Murray. This team actually didn't play too bad. Drake against Murray State, the last time they played, only lost by 9, 81-72. And all of my question marks, all my worries about Drake's ability to battle the size that the Racers have, they actually answered. And they won the rebound game. They won the points in the paint game. It was just self-inflicting wounds. Because Murray State shot the ball well. I wouldn't say they shot it great. Drake shot the ball well. Also wouldn't say they shot it great when they played in Murray. But it was just those 11 turnovers. Giving Murray extra possessions, yeah, you're going to lose that game 9 times out of 10. That all being said, this Murray State team is incredible. They are incredible. What Ryan Miller has been able to do in year one, where he takes over a squad that lost 100% of their playing minutes from a year ago. Drake, a team the whole country talks about losing everyone, had more minutes returning this season than Murray State did. And Ryan Miller comes from that Greg McDermott coaching tree, spent years seeing some high-level, high-competition basketball underneath McDermott and with the Blue Jays staff. Brings over a couple of players that have just been game changers in the Valley. And you have this Racers team looking not only like they can run through the Valley, but they could win a game in the NCAA tournament. This is the team. This is the show where, when we get in the next few months, where we're coming up, quickly, where we're going to be talking about bracketology and filling out brackets, you're going to have people at work who are casual fans, and they're going to be saying like, man, who are some good teams? Who are some dark horses? If you want to look smart, listen to today's show. Watch Murray State tonight in Des Moines. That is a dark horse team. That's a team that not only can make it to the NCAA tournament, they could win a game. The Racers have been on fire. They've won 12 straight. They haven't lost since November 24th. Yeah, that's what Ryan Miller is doing. Ryan Miller in his first year just has been able to spread the floor with this roster better than any team in the Valley. They can beat you on multiple levels. They have size. They have athleticism. They have shooting. They have the top scoring offense. They're top 3 in field goal percentage, top 3 in three-point percentage, top 3 in rebounding, and top 3 in forced turnovers. I said this a few weeks ago. I think Belmont is the best offensive team in the Valley. I mean, you watch that Belmont team and they just can pop 43s in a game like it's nothing. When you have Lundblade, who leads the Valley in three-point percentage, yeah, you're going to have a really good offense. And Alexander's a fantastic head coach for the Bruins. That's the best offense in the league. Murray State is the most balanced and most dominant in the league, where they can beat you on multiple levels. They're great on defense and on offense. You have great centers where you get the versatility of Roman Doman, who is one of 6 players, 6'9", but he shoots 54% from the field, 40% from beyond the arc. And then you have the strength and the paint of Fred King, who is right now putting himself up as the best big man in the Valley. And then you have easily a top 3 guard in the conference in Javon Jackson. So you just put all that together, and that is explaining easily why Murray State right now is on a 12-game winning streak and why it looks like Murray State is separating themselves from the rest of the pack. This team is incredible. I'm I know I'm a Bulldog fan, diehard Drake fan. I would love for nothing more tonight to go to the Knapp Center and Drake destroys Murray State. They put together a full 40 against Belmont, where the first 20 minutes they were scoring 45 points. Do that in both halves against Murray State, and I'll be more than happy. The basketball fan in me, the Valley fan in me, I am so excited to see this team because Murray State is really fun. Every time I watch them on TV, on ESPN Plus, when I'm watching other Valley games, that is a really fun team. And Ryan Miller is a fantastic head coach. But to get into the keys for tonight, first and foremost, what we talked about on Monday with this Drake men's team, have to get out to faster starts. This is a game where you fear it could get ugly like it did against Bradley and like it did against Illinois State in that second half. Drake has to get off to a faster start and needs to play a full 40, which has also been a concern and a weakness all season long for Henderson's squad. We said this on Monday as well. Drake is only averaging 22 points a game in 3 of the last 4 first halves. The Racers on the other sideline have only trailed twice in their 12-game winning streak by halftime. This is a team that plays a full 40 and will demand you to play at their pace as well. And then back to the same keys we had a month ago when these two teams faced off to start the year in Valley play. The paint, the rebounding, and the turnovers. Turnovers, you can't give Murray State extra possessions. That was the difference maker a month ago. But with their size, with 6 guys over 6'9", the rebounding game and the points in the paint, crucial tonight. So if Drake can do all those 3, along with the fast start, they're going to put themselves in a nice position against the Valley's best. A lot easier said than done. We all know that. But lastly, don't have that mindset that I just said of a lot easier than done. Have that mindset of filled with confidence. Sure, Drake right now 9-10, 3-5, just lost to UIC. Play with confidence. Play with confidence. Don't let the emotions get too high, get too low. Have confidence with middle ground, because you only lost by 9 on the road to this team. You know you can compete with this team. And Murray State, I think, is a great team, has struggled. They struggled against Indiana State, and they struggled against Southern Illinois. Those are 2 teams Drake beat. So play with that confidence. Both of those wins by Murray State were by 4 or less. Play with that confidence of they struggled against 2 teams we beat. We can battle this team. And I think Henderson will do a good job of that. We all know Henderson's attitude. We all know his energy. I think he's going to implement that. It's just now, can the players buy into it? I think that's been a struggle from this first year with Coach Henderson's squad, is the buying in to his game plans, his systems, his attitude. I think that's why we see the emotions of the game, the mental aspect of the game, where on this Drake Bulldog team. Yeah, this is a huge mountain to climb for the Drake Bulldogs, where Murray State is that's the contender. So tip off at 6:00 tonight in the Knapp Center. It's going to feel good to watch this Drake Bulldog men's team because it feels like it's been a while that we've seen them in Des Moines. Really excited, like I've said 1,000 times, to watch this Murray State team. But if you're not able to go to the Knapp Center, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Media Row Pod for live game updates as well as post-game interviews with Coach Henderson. Game at 6 o'clock. We will be there live. But now let's jump forward to our Wednesday Missouri Valley Conference standings updates. So, of course, as you guys can easily tell from that first segment, Murray State's in first place for the men. 16-3, 8-0, 12-game winning streak. They are the top tier team. Not far behind them. 1.5 game behind is Belmont. And they're starting to put together a nice little win streak. They've won 4 straight. The concern I have with Belmont is that offense is fantastic. We've seen what happens, though, when they have a slow start or a cold shooting day. We saw it in Des Moines. That first half, they couldn't buy a shot. Now, Drake hurt themselves in the second half, but also credit to Alexander, the adjustments he made, and then the players starting to nail those shots, having confidence in those shots led them to be able to make that 25-point comeback. The issue with Belmont, the bigger issue, is that defense. And that is what we were worried about at the start of the year. When we did our preseason projections on the show 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we had Belmont picked second because we loved Alexander. We loved that offense. We just didn't know what to expect defensively. Belmont's a team that at the start of Valley play, I was starting to get a little hope that, maybe they've started to balance things out. Maybe that defense is starting to figure some things out. It seems like it's back to normal of the Bruins doing what Belmont has done for the last 5 years of offense first. They're fine giving up 98 points as long as they score 99. It's caused some heart attacks for some Bruins fans in some close games where you're sitting there going, they shouldn't be close to Indiana State right now. They shouldn't be close to Evansville. But they still pull out the victories because of that offense and because of Lundblad. So Belmont's been really fun to watch. They've won 4 straight. Yeah, Bradley coming off of a loss, 2.5 games behind. Bradley, a team where you still have faith in Wardle. Wardle, I think, proved it, and he told everyone what he was going to do, and he's proven why he's such a great coach. That is because 2 months ago, he said, I'm going to figure this young team out and who they are by Christmas. And then they go on a winning streak, and all of a sudden, that bad start to the year, you can just shove to the side. You don't even worry about it. This is a good Bradley team. It's just finding other guys outside of Johnson to be your leading scorer because, man, Janovich, some size in the paint, good post players, but they can get bullied in there. And if you find a team that has size or at least has the strength to battle Janovich in the paint, he doesn't have the greatest of post moves. He's not the most fundamentally sound big man in the game right now, where they struggle to have that balance offensively. And you add on top just a young team as well. But Bradley 2.5 games behind. And then you have Illinois State and UNI. Illinois State 3 games behind. UNI 4 games behind. Illinois State, a team that just isn't living up to the hype that I was building up in my head with this Redbirds team. I think Chase Walker is fantastic, but too much relies on him, which I know you're going to go through your big man, your star player, no matter who your team is. But when you bring back as much experience as Illinois State did, you didn't expect them to live and die, ride or die on Chase Walker. So Illinois State 3 games behind, and then UNI banged up. That defense has kind of fallen off a little, where you have some big games coming up. And that's what I want to talk about here next, are just the top games in the Valley this week. And both of them are with UNI. UNI has huge tests. Ben Jacobson, this is going to kind of, I don't want to say decide your feelings going into, the final month of the regular season, but your confidence level, your fans' view of your team. And we've seen Jacobson have struggling teams going into St. Louis, and they still play great. He's a fantastic head coach, winningest coach in the Valley for a reason. These are some really tough games coming up this weekend and kind of identity-defying games this week. They have a game on the road against Illinois State tonight. Then they take on Murray State on Saturday at home. These are huge games. You get both wins, go 1-1 at least. You bring up some more confidence back in a fan base that is starting to question what happened to this team after what was such a great start to the season. And you saw the defensive intensity from this team, and you saw the offensive balance and the physicality. There was a lot of hype and a lot of excitement by Panthers fans. Get a few guys healthy and focus on this week of taking down Illinois State and Murray State. Huge test coming up for the Panthers. But before we move on to the women's side of things, need to shed some light on what's happening with Valpo. If you are not a Valley guy or not watching every single ESPN Plus game, start paying attention to Valpo. Not saying they're going to win the Valley, not saying they're going to make the Cinderella run. They could play spoiler, though, for a lot of teams in the Valley. And they could be dangerous in St. Louis. What Roger Powell is doing in his third year is by far the most surprising storyline of the Valley this season. They lost 11 players. Basically, everyone that had minutes played. Only 2 returners. This is a Valpo team that struggled all last year, put together a nice little run in St. Louis, got to the semifinals in St. Louis. Everyone collectively covering those games knew what was going to happen, though. You knew Wright was going to leave. You knew all those guys that had good weeks leading up to St. Louis. They were all going to transfer. They were all gone. So all the hype built up in 4 days for Valpo was diminished. Now the hype's starting to get back on track because despite losing 11 guys and only 2 returners, they're 9-10. They've won 3 of their last 5. And the biggest thing, they are making the top tier teams compete and work for it. They are making Murray State work for it. They're making Bradley. You and I lost to Valpo last weekend. This is a really strong Valpo team and just a scrappy team that is going to play spoiler, I think, for a lot of really top tier contending Valley teams moving forward. Just had to give a shout out to Roger Powell. And, Valpo's not a job that I think a lot of people would want. Valpo and Evansville, when you first look at the Valley from an outsider's perspective, you look at those 2 jobs and you're like, how do you win? How do you even compete? And then not only is Roger Powell competing, but he's competing with a whole new roster. I mean, these are guys that had to buy into his system. And he has absolutely done a tremendous job in the transfer portal, found guys that fit his system. And they may not win every game. They may not win every other game even. They may go on losing streaks. But there's a way that you watch this team and you kind of sit back and go, they could get scrappy. They could play spoiler. So Valpo just had to shine some light on them. Now let's move on to our Missouri Valley Conference women's standings. Everything running through Murray State. You have 7-0, the Murray State women leading the conference right now. Again, a team that Drake fans saw 2 weeks ago of just a team that moves the ball well. They're connected, probably better than any team in the Valley. And this is a team that can beat you inside and out. And they're just all over the floor. They're balanced. It's so similar to the men's side of things, where you look at Belmont for the women, best defensive team. You get a little concerned about the offense. Men, Belmont offense you love, get concerned about the defense. Murray State on both the men and women, just balanced. They're so good at every facet of the game. So you have Murray State 7-0, Belmont, who we just talked about, right behind them, 7-1, a half game behind. Then you have UNI 5-2. Then you're stuck with three teams battling right now, 4-3. You have Bradley, Illinois State, and Drake. Drake right now, we talked about on Monday, just a really tough outing and lost to the Braves, but a nice little comeback, bounce back, I should say, against Valpo, who is still winless in the conference right now. Bradley, I will say, I think for the women especially, it's really between Murray State and Belmont. UNI is a good team, led by a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, but you see question marks a lot on the floor still to this point. Bradley didn't impress me greatly. I thought Drake kind of lost that game more than Bradley won it, and not trying to be disrespectful, not trying to be a homer by any means, but they didn't look like a double-digit win team, in my opinion. They just didn't. Illinois State still have yet to really dive deep into them, so I won't criticize them just to this point. And then Drake, just a team full of young players out of their role positions, so going to be an uphill climb for the Bulldogs. But Valley definitely runs through Murray on both sides, with Belmont on both sides right behind their tail. The top games are both in Iowa, in my opinion, this week. And you have Murray State that is going to be tested. You have them taking on UNI right now, who's 5-2 in the conference on the road. And then Sunday at 2 o'clock, they take on a Drake team who is very scrappy, is a team better than their record looks. And yes, I know it's been a tough go around for the last couple of weeks. You know, you come off of losing 3 straight to finally beat Valpo. It's going to be tough, but this is a scrappy team. When you have players like Alsma, Knutson, Becker, who's the freshman player of the week in the Valley, you have opportunities at home to take down Murray State. You're just going to have to limit those turnovers, and we'll preview that game more on Friday. But Murray State has a really tough week ahead of them in Iowa. A lot of fun games on the women's side. So that'll do it for our Valley talk. Let's finish up today's show talking a little college football, because 2025-26 season was a blast. A lot of fun storylines. You had a great start to the season where you had Iowa State taking on Kansas State in Ireland, and a week after that, you had Ohio State at home taking on Texas, and it ends with neither of the big names that people were talking about, where you had people mentioning Indiana and Miami as potential, title contenders, but that was after listing off, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas. It was awesome to see this national championship be between Miami and Indiana, two teams that were kind of given chances. But again, like I said, not after listing off 8 other teams, it felt like. And it lived up to the hype, too. I wanted this game to be a battle. I didn't want Indiana to just steamroll Miami like they did against Oregon. I wanted it to be a fun game. I wanted Indiana to win, don't get me wrong. I wanted the storyline. I wanted to be entertained, though, watching it. I didn't want it to be 55-22. And, boy, we got a battle till the end. I mean, Indiana led by 10 with about 8 minutes to go. And still, you had Miami able to put together a couple of nice drives, had an opportunity to win the game until Beck throws the interception. But just the storyline of what Indiana was able to do. Seriously, I know it's been a few days, but it's still crazy to say that Indiana football are national champions. It is. They went from worst to first. Before Cignetti, they were the first team in FBS to have over 700 losses. The Hoosiers had the longest bowl drought in the nation. They hadn't seen a bowl game since 1991 before Cignetti. And then just like that, in 2 years, he goes 12-2 in his first year, loses to Notre Dame in the first round of the CFP, and then runs the table, goes undefeated, has a Heisman winner at quarterback, has a great physical defense, and honestly, one of the greatest turnarounds and runs in sports history. If someone said, give me the greatest underdog to champion stories in sports, the first one is easily Jimmy V in that 1983 cardiac pack of NC State. That's a classic. I mean, iconic images and the survive and advance mentality and who the head coach was and his story and just the way Jimmy V was so personable and likable on camera. That is always going to be an iconic team and probably still will be the poster child from underdog to champion. I think you do have to throw in the 2016 Cubs breaking a 108-year curse and winning the World Series in Game 7 and coming back from a 3-1 deficit in the series. And also with me being a diehard Cubs fan, that one will always come to mind. I do think number 3 is going to be this Indiana team and Cignetti. 2 years completely changes the outlook of Indiana football and changes Indiana football history in 2 years. It's an unbelievable story. Indiana goes from like, oh, cute, to this team's a problem. They win 27-21 over Miami and are national champs. Just an incredible story. And I like the Cignetti confidence. I love him in the post-game press conference talking about how he's excited to, it's the best beer he's ever had, and he's excited to have another one. Mendoza and his whole family, like, how can you not like this story? And then a player that gets forgotten about and could have easily won MVP was Charlie Becker. That guy could get his jersey ripped off, it could get his face mask pulled, could be getting shoved out of bounds, the ball could be underthrown, overthrown. He's still making the catch. His body control on Monday night was incredible, and I think a lot of people will talk about that Mendoza play, which will be a statue in Bloomington at some point, and is an incredible play. That was a Heisman ceiling, legacy ceiling play by Mendoza. It was fantastic. Becker had a lot of fantastic plays too, and I want to give him a shout out because I knew what Mendoza was made of. I was really impressed by Charlie Becker. But Indiana wins to cap off this fun season of college football, 27-21 over Miami in the national title. Now we just have NFL football. And I will be honest with you guys, I have probably slept the worst I have in a long time because of Sunday's game. It's gonna be hell. It's gonna be so intense. Rams Seahawks on Sunday, as well as Patriots Broncos. We will see who is advancing to the Super Bowl this weekend. We will preview those games, pick those games on Friday, as well as recap the men's game and also preview the Drake women as well. A lot of fun today, a lot we got through. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure to subscribe and follow us all over social media, and we will see you guys Friday for another edition of the Media Row Podcast.